psychics or mediums sensing previous life personalities and experiences, talking of old souls.
Okay. So here's a medium. Here's you. You go along to this medium, right? Now, the medium is often what you would also classify as psychic. In fact, many times they classify themselves as that, right? What that means is they are sensitive to emotion. They call themselves sensitives, right? What they're doing is they're sensitive to emotion. They think they're sensitive to your emotion many times. But they're not actually just sensitive to your emotion. They are sensitive to emotion of all these spirits that are around you and around them. No? There's all these spirits around them all the time. Particularly because they are mediums and spirits can talk to them, right? So, what's happening is, you go along to this medium to find out about how you're doing, and they say, oh, there's this person here, there's this and there's that, and sometimes you might recognise them as a relative, a past relative or something, but oftentimes you don't even recognise them at all. And the reason why is because this psychic has all these spirits around them, you have all these spirits around them, and this person is sensitive to all of that emotion. And they can't differentiate which bit was your emotion, which bit was this one's emotion, which bit was this one's emotion, which bit was this guide's emotion way up here in the spirit world. They can't tell the difference between them all. And because they're sensitive to the emotion, you're also sensitive to the thoughts and memories of each person. So they get fragmented memories from all sorts of people coming into them, thinking they're part of your experience. And because they believe in reincarnation, they then interpret all of that as your past life experiences. Right? Does that make sense what's happening there?
Yes.
Yeah. Because remember I said there's spirits around you all the time. All the time. And you are able to feel their emotions. So why can't this person who's sensitive feel them? Right? If I can feel your emotions here, I can feel your emotions in the spirit world, can't I? We're the same soul, are we not? Just a different body. So I can't hear the question.
What's happening when the psychics are trying to tell your future?
When they're trying to tell your future, many times there's, let's say there's some relatives around you, then there's your guide around you, and there's all these other people around you who are interested in you, who have passed. Right? And the psychic's trying to get information from them all to tell you. Now, some of that information is going to be from spirits in low spheres. Some of it's going to be from spirits in a higher sphere. Can you see what's going on? There'll be all this mixture of information going on. Some of it's going to be accurate, because the ones in a higher sphere are more accurate. Some is going to be not very accurate, because the ones in the lower spheres are obviously much less accurate. So you've got all this confusion happening. And when I've seen some mediums myself, you can often tell if you're feeling the emotion. You can tell when they've switched connection, you can tell when they've switched it to another spirit, you know, and you can tell the fragmentation that's occurring at any one time. All of that is not proof that there's reincarnation, is it? All of that is just communication between friends in the end. If you can look at it that way, that's really all it is. Communication between people with like attractions. Right? Gary?
So they're not actually telling you the future, they're suggesting something that they'd like you to do.
Oftentimes they are suggesting things that they want you to do.
But not in the future, they can't tell you the future.
Well, no, they can to a degree, because there's no time in the spirit world, so they can actually, there are snapshots that you can take based on the person's emotional condition right now and predict what they will do. You can do that quite easily. You also can see pictures, and you, by the way, have this ability too, to see pictures of your own future. How many of you have had pictures of your own future come to you? Almost half the audience, right? So everyone has this ability. It's just that we don't use it and trigger it. And spirits all have that ability too. So they just tell the psychic what it is. Right? It's all pretty standard stuff really in the end, right?
Actually, I've had a forecast like rooms that were very damaging for me. And I just want to follow up with the told that I killed both my children in Atlantis, and another reading was with my older daughter who I had some challenges with, that she kept me prisoner in Scotland. And as a result of both those readings, I was extremely angry with my daughter for probably a year.
Right.
But one of that told me that I killed my children. I suffered the most incredible guilt for, I think, 7 years. Why didn't that go through that I had a reason?
All right. Why they came through?
What was the question?
It's very hard to repeat.
Just that I got guilt from it.
There were 2 experiences that you had. One experience was that they were both related to your children, really, where you were told that there were past life interactions between your children and yourself that you then experienced some very severe emotions about. So that's basically an overview of the question. What actually was happening is, here's yourself, full of different emotions. One of those emotions was guilt, right? But there's other emotions, right? Here's some spirits. When you go to a far past life regression therapist, there are literally thousands of spirits surrounding that therapist. Thousands. All waiting to tell their story to somebody, because nobody in the spirit world is listening. And so what they do is they want to connect to somebody who will listen, right?
Haven't they got anything better to do?
Sorry?
In the spirit world, isn't there anything better to do than just hang around people?
There is lots better to do, but if you're immersed in the emotion, it's very, very hard to do anything other than what the emotion is dictating. Isn't that the case? How do you find it in your own day-to-day life? If you're immersed in the emotion, it's very hard to do anything else as well as being immersed in the emotion, isn't it?
You don't find someone else attached to them, do you?
You often do here on earth. Honestly, the majority of you at some point have attached to other people just to get an emotion from them.
Really? That's where the saying comes from, misery loves company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, why do, like, you know, I was talking with Mary the other day about sometimes a group of women getting together to actually have a lot of negative comments about their partners or ex-partners, right? What's that about? None of them want to deal with the emotion, they all want to commiserate. Right? You get a lot of guys go down the pub, you know, have a bit of a drink, and away they go about whatever is happening in their life. Why? Because it's a law of attraction event to help expose their emotion, but instead of exposing it, they live in it.
Professional public speakers take that.
Sorry?
Professional public speakers take that to an extreme.
Oftentimes, yeah, because a lot of people do public speaking to get all these wonderful emotions from the audience. Yeah. So even as a public speaker, you've got to be very careful that you're not sucking your audience dry. How do you feel when you walk out? Do you feel like enlightened or bright, or do you feel like sucked right out? You know, it depends on the emotion coming from people. But let's get back to this question that you asked, because it's important. These spirits had these experiences where that you have related. Some of them where, you know, a mother did kill the child, or vice versa. Did kill her children in one case. Right? So this spirit killed her children. She has a lot of guilt about it. You go to a past life therapist, right? Past life regression therapist, with your guilt about being a bad mother. She feels attracted to you and comes through you to talk about what's actually happened to her. Now, all of that's fine up until this point, really. She's working through the same emotion you're working through. Isn't that great? Like, it's a friend working through similar emotion. So far, it's great. However, when it gets messy is when you're told that you did that, right? Now that it starts to get very, very complicated. You can stay in these emotions for a long time. Now, if you had focused on feeling your own emotion, you would have probably dealt with it quite rapidly if you understood what was going on. But what happened was your own guilt was so strong and you couldn't allow yourself to fully experience it, and that caused a permanent attraction. This spirit followed you around for a year and stayed with you all that time. And you felt not only your own guilt, but hers as well, in an effort to get to a point where you both had cleared it. But if you knew that was happening, you probably would have dealt with it all within a week. Right? And this is the problem, is when we then assume it's a past life, we have a tendency then to just not focus on the causal emotion and release it.
So it wasn't necessarily malicious in that.
No, she wasn't malicious at all. Yeah, she didn't feel malicious. What she was doing was damaging, but she didn't feel malicious. Right? Yeah.
But it only became damaging because the past life regression therapist said this was you.
Because of the belief. Yeah, yeah. If the belief had been, this spirit's with you, she's got guilt, you've got guilt, law of attraction happening, talk to each other, you might trigger each other emotionally, and you know, that could have happened quite easily. Where it'd be like two people feeling guilt here on earth, talking about their own guilt to each other. And you could have dealt with it very, very rapidly. But what happened, it gets all complicated, past life, all this guilt, and now she's permanently connected with you until this guilt's released, and it can be a very, very uncomfortable experience. And it is a very uncomfortable experience for the majority.
I'm a bit confused. If we progress and go into more higher dimensions and get rid of our emotions or better connection to God, are we given the ability to connect with spirits generally? It sounds like it's kind of catching to hear there's all these lower spirits.
It's fantastic.
But they're all coming to you.
Yeah.
Knowing you.
No, they don't. Like, I don't find them annoying. Oh, thanks. I don't find them annoying. Well, it's a joyous experience. They've come to me, my law of attraction brought them. There's something within them that I can learn from. There's something within me they can learn from. I can talk with them, work all that, work through it emotionally, they'll leave.
You can see all spirits, can't you, whether they're attracted to you or not.
You can too. It's just you're not aware. It's not a negative experience. It only becomes negative when our belief system is that we're afraid of spirits. I view a spirit the same as I view you. And that is, we have a law of attraction. If you come up and bop me in the nose, I've got a law of attraction that I attracted it, and I need to look at that. I need to look at what's going on inside of me. It's that old saying, you're my teacher, in a way. And that's happening all the time, constantly. It's a beautiful thing, actually. I find it very beautiful. And I've had many times in this life where spirits have been attached to me or attracted to me because of some really severe negative emotions. So I've had whole groups of spirits who are really angry come to me. Like, very recently, I had nearly over 1 million spirits with me, angry with me. Like, so I had to look at the law of attraction. Why am I attracting this angry spirits, all just hammering me? So I just cried. I just let myself cry for 6 or 7 days. Once I did that, they all went away. Because I dealt with the emotion that caused the attraction. So everything's helped, really. Even though they didn't want to help me, but that's how it turned out.
Recently I had a communication with a spirit that identified himself as my guide.
Yep.
And the channeling, if that's what you call it,
Yep.
the impression of the words came in several languages. And it was an uplifting experience.
Was?
Yes.
Yep.
The communication wasn't something that I previously had knowledge of or understanding. But because I'm aware of my own soul condition, that I've still got heaps of stuff to work through.
Mm-hmm.
What concerns me is two things.
Mm-hmm.
How do I place, value or truth on what's being communicated?
Yep.
And second, how do I then be in the best? It was a wonderful experience. But what concerned me was whether it mixed my emotions in
What you're
my
worried
thought
about.
processes. And do you understand?
Totally. What you're worried about is, was this spirit who was talking to you really your guide? Or here's you, here's the spirit. Was this spirit really your guide? You already know the answer, actually. Was it really your guide? What do you feel?
I think it was.
You think it was? But let's go with your feelings. What do you feel? Okay.
I guess if I am questioning it, then it can't be right. Otherwise, I would just have a sense of surety.
Yeah, it was a spirit, in not a bad place, coming to you, claiming to be you. Sorry? Yes, because he knows that's the terminology you use for it. Yeah. Like I was talking to a friend of mine a few weeks ago. He said there's two spirits here from the 22nd sphere. I go, oh yeah. They're both women. Oh, interesting. Okay. Is there any women in the 22nd sphere? Is there any men in the 22nd sphere?
No, not past 21st. They are all
22nd
guys.
sphere,
They
remember
are
I said,
related.
I've said to you, is the soul union condition. So, will you feel the spirit from that location as a gender? No. Okay. Interesting that they told him that that's where they were from. Anyway, we started talking to them. Through him, he talked to them. And I started talking about their emotions. Their emotions were, they were attached to this man because he looks after women, this man does. And they felt attracted to him because, why do you reckon they were attracted? Because they wanted looking after, right? And I actually talked to them, and eventually we talked, and they were in the first sphere, but they used all the terminology they could to, because they can read his mind, of course. They used all the terminology they could to convince him they were in the 22nd sphere. But if he allowed himself to feel his emotions, like I did at the time, he would have known they were attracted to him for reasons that wouldn't be there if they were in the 22nd sphere. Right.
But isn't the loving thing to do to hear that person out?
Totally. But let's call it as it is. They're lying to you, misrepresenting the truth to you. So let's address that with them. So you need to address that with that spirit. Now, why does it want to misrepresent the truth to you? What's going on? Can you help him? Trust your own feelings about the matter. Does that make sense?